fight ain't over yet.
My man.
When the original cut of Justice League was released in 2017, it faced near universal backlash from both critics and fans of the previous films in the DC Extended Universe. The film was criticized for its contrasting tones, obviously reshot scenes, and terrible jokes that felt out of place next to the aesthetic from previous films in the franchise. Fans clamored for the release of a new cut that would be more accurate to the director's original vision. And finally, 4 years later in 2021, a new 4-hour cut of the film was released that many consider to be far superior to the 2017 cut. But what went wrong with the film in the first place? And what major changes were made between the different versions? After the release of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice in 2016, the DC Extended Universe was in a pretty unstable position. Although the film had grossed over $800 million at the box office, it had still underperformed and was heavily panned by critics, putting the future of the franchise in question. Up until that point, the DCEU had been creatively helmed by director Zack Snyder, known for his directorial work on films like 300, Watchmen, and of course Man of Steel. Snyder is known for his use of dark visuals, serious tone, and lots of slow motion in his films. But by the time production for Justice League was already underway, studio executives at Warner Bros. Had lost confidence that Snyder's vision would be enough to convince audiences to see the film. In an attempted solution to this issue, Warner Bros. Brought in director Joss Whedon to supervise rewrites and possible reshoots to the film to make it more appealing to general audiences. Joss Whedon is well known for his work on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, having directed both The Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron, in addition to creating popular shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Firefly. The producers were weary of the epicness and drama of Snyder's previous films and opted to instead have Whedon adapt the film to be more lighthearted and humorous, in the same vein as the Avengers films. But what did Snyder have to say about this complete overhaul of his artistic vision? Unfortunately, although he initially attempted to maintain creative control over the film, tragedy would soon strike his family. In March of 2017, Snyder's daughter Autumn tragically took her own life, leading to Zack stepping away from the film in order to spend some time with his family. Even though at this point the film was almost entirely shot, the studio authorized Whedon to conduct large-scale reshoots of the film, spending an additional $25 million to reshoot as much as 3/4 of the film before its release. The film turned out to be an even bigger flop for the studio than Batman v Superman, leading to executives reevaluating the future of the DCEU. 3 years later, it was decided that Snyder would return to head up an extended version of his original Justice League vision, with the studio spending an additional $70 million completing work on the original footage, as well as shooting entirely new scenes. It was Snyder's chance to prove himself after facing backlash against his DC films for years, and luckily for him, he was able to earn his redemption in the public eye. You may now be wondering, how different was the Snyder cut to the Whedon cut of the film, or the Josstice League? The short answer is very. If I were to go over every single difference between the two cuts, this video would end up being hours long, but I'll do my best to quickly highlight some of the major differences between the two. As I've already mentioned, Josstice League is considerably lighter in tone than the Snyder cut, and that lightness extends to the visuals as well. The colors in the Josstice League are considerably more vibrant and higher contrast than the darker tones in the Snyder cut, leading to the Whedon cut having a more cartoony feel. One thing that is often mentioned about the Josstice League is that you can easily tell which scenes with Superman were reshot just by looking at his upper lip. After the initial filming of Justice League, Superman actor Henry Cavill had already started work as the main villain in Mission Impossible Fallout, for which he had grown a mustache. However, when it came time for Whedon to reshoot over half the film, Cavill refused to shave it off, and the studio was forced to digitally remove the mustache in every shot with Superman. The difference between the CGI lip and his actual lip is extremely noticeable in the final film, which seems fitting in a film that was hastily thrown together with pieces that don't quite fit. Naturally, when you're cutting down a 4-hour film into a 2-hour film, many important characters and plot elements will have to be cut down or removed for the sake of brevity. The character that arguably suffered the most in Whedon's cut of the film was Cyborg, played by actor Ray Fisher. Cyborg plays an extremely central role in the Snyder Cut, having an extensive backstory with his father and ultimately being the one to save the Earth from destruction. However, the Josstice League opted to greatly reduce Cyborg's prominence in the film, leaving him as only a supporting character in the final version. Fisher was publicly frustrated with Whedon after shooting the film, even saying on Twitter that, quote, Joss Whedon's on-set treatment of the cast and crew of Justice League was gross, abusive, unprofessional, and completely unacceptable. There are still hundreds of other major and minor differences between the two cuts, but hopefully now you have a basic understanding of how different these two films actually are. Even though Zack Snyder's Justice League is definitely not a perfect film, it is clear to anyone who has seen both versions that it is a significant improvement over the Josstice League. Even though Snyder faced many hardships while attempting to portray his artistic vision, it is encouraging to know that he was able to completely redeem his film in the eyes of his fans. All too often in the film industry, we see studios overriding the creative decisions of directors only to ruin the film, so it's great to finally see an example of how sticking with the original artistic vision of a film is often the best course of action. Even if we don't see a continuation of Snyder's DC Extended Universe, Zack Snyder's Justice League stands as an example that passion and vision always overcome pandering to market research. I would urge anyone who has only seen the Josstice League to check out the Snyder Cut, and I hope you all enjoyed this look into the drama behind the two Justice Leagues.